All right, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and we are back for another episode of the Peasant Party podcast. I am your host, Charlotte Warren, and to my right, we've got someone back in the house.
What's up?
What's up, Annabelle?
Hello, happy to be here.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah.
What's new with you?
Girl, what is new with me? I watched Portrait of a Lady on Fire the other night, and it changed my life, the way that I see the world. I see the world as a more beautiful, poetic place now. I watched it like 2 nights ago, and it's just like all I've been thinking about for the last 2 days.
Nice. You really felt something.
Yeah. Are you into art house like that? Do you like art house films?
I need to see Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Everyone tells me I need to see it.
Oh, it's so good. It's like just an absolutely soul-crushing lesbian period piece, romance, drama, tragedy. It's so good. It's so good.
Will it hit me in the feels?
Yeah, it'll hurt.
Ugh.
It'll hurt good.
Not another feels trip, but those are good every once in a while. Yeah, what else is new with you in other realms? You've given us updates on your romantic life.
I don't know. I actually officially today, or was it last night? Maybe it was like yesterday. He was like, so can we just like be in a relationship?
And this is your
my ex,
your
man.
ex that you're back with.
Current man, yeah.
All right.
So I'm officially off the market, as they say.
What? Well, that was fast. Shout out Zach if he's listening to this. Shout out Zach.
Shout out
cool.
Zach.
Well, I love to hear. Yeah, shout out Zach. Shout out to Zach. I guess to kick things off, as you probably know, we hit 100,000 followers on TikTok, which kind of was a long time coming. I think the grand total is like 106 or so right now. Something that's come with that is, people that have been asking, oh, do you have a podcast? Like, do you have a blog or something? Like, have you written a book? No, I haven't written a book, but I do have a podcast. And considering that we're going to share these clips, we're going to, push people to this, because I would be honored to have you as all y'all as a follower of this podcast, in addition to my TikTok. Kind of wanted to do like an overview of what our podcast is all about, because I feel like we just dove into things and didn't really like explain the format of the podcast or what the meaning of it is.
Yeah.
And sometimes people want to know that. So I guess I'll kind of share it with you
you're
in the
gonna have
world.
to do that for
sure.
sure.
So, Peasant Party Podcast. This originated, I started doing TikTok content probably May or June of last year. So pretty much been little over a year. And it all started because a group of friends and I went to a brunch. We were talking about old stories, and I said to one of my friends, "Oh yeah, like." Phil, the guy you dated. And he was someone she went on dates with for, month and a half, ongoing, came to like our company holiday party. We worked together, things like that. And she quickly like interrupted me when I said, the guy you dated. She says, we were never dating. We were never in a relationship. We were only talking. And I'm just like, what? No, you were going on dates for the course of a month and a half. You were dating. It started this whole debate at this brunch. It ended with her saying, agree to disagree. I don't take agree to disagree very well.
You said, I will not.
Exactly. I'm very stubborn. And so, of course, like my opinion, actively going on dates, dating, talking stage is that window of time before that first date takes place. You're organizing your date, whatever. And because I was so stubborn, I took it to, I drew up this little graph of, here's your timeline, talking stage, dating, then you're in a relationship. Dating does not mean in a relationship. And I drew it up, I put it on TikTok, and I said, I'm declaring war on this term. I was not as loud when I first started doing it. Now I'm a little more intense.
Now you're pissed.
And so I made a video saying we're not doing talking stage to describe someone you're going on dates with. Of course, it starts a debate in the comments. I think some big influencer stitched it, and then it blew up, influx of followers. And I'm like, this is kind of fun. My day job is in digital marketing. So kind of had some interest in TikTok in general. It was kind of like, how do I keep this up? Like, and I think the next weekend had a friend that described herself as being ghosted, but she was talking about a guy who just like stopped talking to her on a dating app. In my opinion, that is not ghosting. Like, for a person to be a ghost, like, you have to have met them in person, in my opinion. If you have no proof, yes.
Can I, is there a shorthand word for then not ghosted, or like, would you just have to say like, oh yeah, we dated and then we kind of stopped talking and it was this and that, like,
So my take on ghosting, and because my friend, it was, she said, oh, this guy, he ghosted me, a guy who stopped talking to her on a dating app. My personal take is kind of the first step of it is to be ghosted, you have to have met somebody in person, because if you have never met them in person, you have no proof they exist. If you have no proof they exist, they can't be a ghost. So that alone makes it not ghosting in general. But I also think in general, the definition of ghosting is it takes two to be ghosted. So many people will go on a date and then they'll come home, they won't text the person, then they won't hear from that person. They'll be like, they ghosted me. No, for something to be ghosting, you have to text them and they have to like deliberately ignore it. And it can't just be like a thanks for a good night. You have to like express some interest in hanging out with them again. That's my take on what ghosting is. So people that say like, oh, I just wait for them to text me. You weren't ghosted. Like that's the consequences. Like you can't ever be ghosted. That's the consequences of your action if you don't like reciprocate interest.
Aha.
Exactly.
Okay. Got it.
So I was trying to, I'm like, okay, what can I do? Doing this visual aid of ghosting. And I'm trying to like draw, I'm like, okay, it's not, I can't do this like spectrum style. And I'm like, oh, like an XY axis with the X axis being how well you know this person, because the better you know a person, the less you have to do for it to be ghosting. Like if you're married to somebody, the implications you're going to talk to them. If you just disappear, like the bar for ghosting is different. And then on the y-axis, I put like how much effort the person who claims they're being ghosted put into communicating with this person. It starts at silence and goes all the way up to contact the police, which is actually kind of funny, because if you're married to someone and they disappear and they don't tell you where they're going, it's reasonable to call the police.
Okay. Got it. But like you go on a date with one guy and then he doesn't respond to you.
So it's so funny because there are people who have written in, and no one's written this into our mailbag, but I follow other dating podcasts and content creators, and some of their mailbags are like, we had the best date. I know there's no way in hell this guy would ghost me. So I called the county morgue to see if his body was there or something like that, because they're like, there's no way this guy ghosted me. He said like that he could see himself marrying me. Like, so I just had to check.
The delusion. I fully am that delusional sometimes, so it's okay. It's okay, girl.
But people are doing it.
I might do that.
Yeah. And so like the whole like y-axis, it's like basically, because the more effort you put into contacting someone or making it clear you want to see them, the less room they have to say, I had no idea they were interested. Like if you just send someone thanks for the date after a date and you don't say, oh, I'd love to do this again, they can still think like, oh, I thought they were just being polite. I didn't know they wanted to see me again, so I just took that as them not being interested. So there's less room to like claim ignorance. So I'm doing this. I was trying to draw it, and then I'm like, fuck, I can't draw this. Like, it's hard to read. So I was like, oh yeah, like with work, I do a lot of PowerPoints that I have to present back, and I have all these templates. I'm just going to put this on an XY axis on a PowerPoint. And then it started to be this PowerPoint thing. And really what I've done is kind of taken all of these there's a lot of big dating buzzwords. What do they mean? I think buzzwords confuse us a lot. Like if someone tells you they were ghosted, everyone has a different version in their head of what that is. To some people, it's, oh, they stopped talking on a dating app. To other people, ghosting is, that you came home from work and all of their stuff was gone from their dresser. Like that's a different, and then you couldn't get a hold of them. Yeah.
But so, we need an objective standard of what these terms mean. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a lot of that. It's a lot of, response to, big dating issues or stuff that comes up on TikTok. You don't get paid out on stitches anymore, but stuff where it's, some big rich influencer came up with a theory to make themselves look cool and ripping it apart. So just a lot of that. And I have fun with it. Is it serious? I try to keep it heartfelt, but as you can tell here, I don't scream when I talk to people. I would like to think I'm relatively normal. So
it's impassioned.
And it's fun. Like it's, like you do what gets your response. It gets people's attention. If you kick off a video with you hitting it with a silver pineapple toy, I don't know what that was, but yeah.
You're getting good at your transitions.
I'm getting a little better at the transitions, but yeah. So
queen.
Yeah. So that's the origin story of the account. It's been kind of a wild ride. Bits every now and then there's like a video that'll go viral and then it'll go up in influx. So if you're listening this far, happy to have you here on the podcast. And then kind of want to explain what the name comes from, because I haven't explained that as well. Why are we a peasant party? Why are the peasants partying? Why isn't it just like something more normal dating? Well, where the name came from is, a few years ago, dated a guy who was very kind of like bougie, just would love to, like almost to a point where it was performative.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So dude. Almost to the point where it was performative. Like it was so ridiculous. Like, so when we would go out to dinner and stuff, I'd be like, hey, we should totally
theatrical.
It was theatrical, cartoonish.
Cartoonish.
Yeah, but hey, like let's go out. Like if we go out, let's go during 3 to 6 is happy hour. We can get half off appetizers, try some new drinks. Or I would say, oh, I've got a coupon, and he would just like shake his head and be like, oh, there's Charlotte off at her little peasant party. again, like because he would just call me a peasant for looking for deals like a normal person.
Like a normal
Exactly.
functioning human.
And so I had that kind of back of my mind. And then when I was making a TikTok account, just because of the nature of a For You page on Instagram, whatnot, I usually make my username something that's like a play on of my name. I didn't want to do that with TikTok. And so I'm like, what could my name be? And it was like, I was like, welcome to the peasant party. And then when it blew up, it kind of stuck. But I also think, even though it is kind of a goofy name that came out of left field, I think it is relevant because I think the modern day peasant is the average Joe and Jill. So much dating content out there is it's created by big, rich LA, New York influencer types, like someone who's an influencer. People are like, oh, you're dating celebrities? Like, tell me about your dating life. And then all of a sudden, Tinks has a dating podcast, despite the fact that no one can really relate to, this woman whose family is very, very wealthy in that sense.
Is she like upper echelon? I don't know much about.
She pretends she's not, but
Tinks,
she is, yeah.
Okay, so she's kind of like high profile type girl.
For better or worse, yeah, she got into TikTok pretty early.
Dates rich people, that kind of thing. Okay,
yeah. And I used to rag on Tinks a lot more, like, but I kind of like feel bad doing so now because it's just
there's so much worse out there.
Well, she's also just like she's kind of like fallen off the wagon, but yeah. So it's people like a Tinks or like the We Met at Acme Girls Pretty Privilege. I'm totally just calling out names. Sorry guys, if you like these podcasts, but. Yeah, it's either New York, LA influencers, or on the guy side, it's the Miami alpha bro types.
Yeah,
who
true.
I don't think are as rich as they say they are. I think, it's they're renting a lot of what they're doing. But as my old CEO of my old company used to say, if it flies, floats, or fucks, rent it. So they're renting it.
For sure. And yeah, I feel like the like Call Her Daddy podcast, as like fun as it is, they're like talking about like flying in a PJ.
Yeah, they're living lives that are so different.
An athlete, and it's like, all right, well.
Exactly. And so I've kind of the idea I want to have is dating for scenarios that the average Joe and Jill can relate to. And we're having a fun time doing it. Like, I think the peasants are having fun. We don't give a flying fuck about the bourgeoisie, whatever fucking...
The bourgeoisie.
I'm using 10th grade history terms. So that's what we're all about here. I like to keep things as gender neutral as I can in a sense that, my audience is like a 60-40 female male split, which is really cool. Not a lot of dating content's like that.
Really?
Yeah. It's like 90-10 or 95-5, like one way or the other. Yeah. Most dating content. But because it is so like gendered heavy and but kind of got lucky with that, just with the situations I talk about. Like anyone of any gender can be anyone of any gender can be ghosted. Anyone of any gender can freaking hate ghosting. A lot of people do. So that's kind of where the audience came from. And then we're predominantly disproportionately like between the ages of 25 to 44, something like 75% between the ages of 25 to 44.
Okay.
So it's a bit more, we're kind of
regular ass people.
Yeah, we're kind of past the college age. If you are in college, I would almost say take this podcast with a grain of salt because we talk about dating a little more seriously. If you're in college, just go have fun with your friends.
For sure.
But that's kind of who the podcast is for. And the format we do on here is we take 2 listener questions just throughout the episode. And then we have like 2 quick hit questions. And then, of course, we sprinkle anecdotes throughout. And then when we take our listener mailbag, we aren't just talking to the person who wrote into us. It's usually a relatable scenario that people can learn something from. So we pick it apart and we learn, we kind of do what if type things related to whatever the question's about. So that's how the podcast goes. That's our format. Yeah.
Perfect. Love it. I feel like you laid that out. I hope I didn't take any... distract you.
No, not in the slightest at all.
Okay.
Not in the slightest at all. And with that in mind, we're going to kick off our listener question.
Cool.
As I pull that up, Annabelle, do you want to tell a joke or a little quick?
Oh my God. I don't know. You already have it.
No, tell what you're going to tell.
I don't have a joke.
Okay.
I can't tell jokes like that.
Cool. Well, good to know. Annabelle can't tell jokes. Everyone make fun of her. No, I'm just kidding. Our first quick hit question before we go into the mailbag is, Annabelle, how do you define a casual relationship?
A casual relationship.
The word casual. Someone says they're looking for something casual. What's that mean to you?
If a man says that they're looking for something casual to me, it sounds like, honestly, maybe I read into things, but that is giving like I have a partner already.
Yeah.
Casual is giving like discreet to me.
Interesting.
I don't know. But to be dating someone casually, I think it's, you know what I think it is? I think it would be like going on a date with someone, having a great time, you're good friends, and then you just kind of like don't really talk all that much for the next like few days until something else comes up and you're like, oh damn, I should call that guy, and then you like go hang out with him, because I have had that. And it's super fun. It's super fun. It's like casually dating, I would say, is just kind of like you're not holding each other to anything. You're not getting pissed when the other one isn't really responding to you, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a good kind of overview of what casual can mean. It's just there's no expectation that what you're doing becomes a relationship, and really no expectation of anything, and you're not supposed to, I guess, take things personally.
Yeah, and if you like hook up,
you
hook up, whatever. It's not, either or. But it's like chill if you do or do not.
Exactly. But even then, with casual, even though it's like we kind of agreed there's no expectation, what people want out of casual exists on a spectrum. And I put that on a chart that I made. I think if you're coming from TikTok, you've seen that. But the idea of casual existing on a spectrum is you could have one end of the spectrum. They want casual, it's a one night stand, and then on the other end, it's like a situationship type style relationship. There's no title, no responsibility, but you go through the motions of a relationship. And so if you want something casual, saying what your version of casual is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then of course, I think someone else wanted me to talk about too. Obviously there's casual. You spent some time on Hinge. Before going
Sure
to Zach.
did.
What was your take on the Hinge? I think it's like the intentions thing where it's you can put long-term, things like that. What is your take on what they have is listed as short-term relationship or long-term open to short-term open to long?
Swipe left immediately. Short-term relationship? What kind of fucking game do you think usually it's like, oh, I'm on Hinge, but I'm going to be moving, in like the next few months. So whatever. I've heard, it might have been like my coworker or something who was like, oh, like, there's this person that you're into, but they're moving away in a couple months. That's like the perfect little relationship. There's no strings attached. That sounds awesome. And I'm like, that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
That sounds absolutely terrible. What, you're hanging out with this person and just like not getting attached to them in any way? Like, what? No, that's terrible. Looking for a short-term relationship?
Yeah. I do think it's because Hinge wants to be like, oh, the app designed to be deleted. They like want to avoid saying casual and hookups. I think it's Hinge speak for hookups. But
is there no casual option?
No, because Hinge wants to be
the short term. Okay.
Yes, I think they're trying to make it sound as an elevated version of casual as you can.
Got it. I don't know what I put on mine. Fuck.
A lot of people just don't fill it out.
Looking for a husband.
Well, one thing, and I think it was when I had Buddy on, but it was putting long-term relationship versus life partner on Hinge. What should
life
you put?
Partner.
Because they have long-term relationship and they have life partner. And someone asked, does you're looking for a life partner, does that make you look too scary to somebody, or is that going to scare people off? Like, does long-term relationship send the same message?
A life partner is so romantic. That's way more romantic than long-term relationship. Like, if you're looking for if everyone's looking for a life partner, and if you say you're not, like, you're bullshitting. Everyone, that's like, I feel like everyone's dream in life is to find somebody to like go on the human experience with.
Yeah. But I do think at the end of the day, at 80 years old, everyone wants to be sitting on a beach with their life partner, looking off in the sunset, saying that this was a great life. But I think some people want to get to that point sooner than others. Some people, they don't feel any rush to get there. There's some people who are looking for that right now. There's some people who say, I'm down to do that with somebody on another beach somewhere else, and then, come back to the life partner thing later. And so I think that's kind of where it comes from. Like,
yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, I will say this guy that I casually dated, he was not from this country. He's from another country in like South America. And I seriously adore this guy. He's like the best ever. But I remember having a conversation with him one night, and he was like, this whole like obsession with finding one person for the rest of your life is very American.
Interesting.
And I don't know if I should give away what country he's from, but like he was just like, in my country, like it's not like that. Like you kind of like gently acknowledge that people come into and go out of your life, and like you might have multiple like soulmates out there. Yeah. And it's just kind of like life is more accepted to like date in that way, I think.
Interesting. I've heard like so many like countries are so different with how they date. I've heard in Australia, if like I don't know if there's any Aussies listening, we do have some on the heat map. In Australia, apparently, if you hook up with somebody, the assumption is you're now in a relationship. Which is interesting because when I think of Australians, I just think of like them chugging beers out of their shoes, so that's just like funny to me. And then with like with Italy, like they're in no rush to get married. Like same with Germany, I've heard that. But yeah, I would be interested to hear about how other countries date.
Would you say that we are in a rush to get married? Like in
I think there's
the United States?
I think there's
Probably,
definitely people more religious. I think there's
Atomic
also
family unit we had.
There's also the
so
benefits that
deeply
come
ingrained.
with marriage, and just how I think financially there's more at stake and more incentives to get married here than maybe elsewhere that gives you benefits like healthcare and housing or like and pay and time off and whatnot. You almost like need it more if you want to have a family of sorts. But I would be curious to know if we had someone that had done dating around the world and could explain the differences as a guest. If anyone knows of anyone like that, send them our way. Would love to talk to them. But
Interesting, yeah.
that was a good discussion on casual relationships. We're gonna hear from a listener. No, it was
into it. Okay.
No, it was a good discussion. We're gonna go into our second ask, and these are all gonna be around, what do I call this? What is this? What is going on in this situation? All right, so we've got female 28, and she wants to know, is there a way to gracefully decline being exclusive or labeling a relationship without ruining things? I, female 28, have been seeing a guy from Hinge for about 2.5 months. Before this, I was in a serious long-term relationship for most of my 20s. I really enjoy dating this guy and getting to know him. I love being around him. We vibe well. I find him extremely attractive. However, I still feel new to the dating world, and to be honest, I feel like I want to explore all my options. This guy is one of the first people I match with, and I want to play the field a little more before committing to anything, just to know what's out there. I don't know how to say this without coming off as pretty arrogant, but I'm a catch, and given that I didn't really date during my 20s, I kind of want to explore this. On the other hand, I really like this guy. We both said that we wanted to take things slow. However, I am getting hints that he wants to be exclusive. He tried to bring this up jokingly, but I ignored it and tried playing it off. I have a feeling he is going to bring this up seriously sometime this week, and I don't know what to say. Is there a way to gracefully decline being exclusive or labeling the relationship without ruining things? I think for me, I'd want to talk about exclusivity after dating for 5 or 6 months. Is that unreasonable?
My girl, greedy. You want to play the field and still keep this guy in your back pocket. It's kind of funny.
My short answer is, well, first it depends on what you consider ruining things, but if the idea is, can I decline a label and still keep this guy the exact same way I've had him? No. I'm sorry, man. I'm glad you're enjoying.
Let his ass go. You gotta let him go.
Yes. I'm glad you're enjoying being single and that you're a catch and you have options. But no, the short answer is no. You can't have your cake and eat it too, and that's something you'll learn very quickly in dating. There are trade-offs to everything.
Oh my God. How long did she said she was in a relationship?
Most of her 20s. So she's getting back out there. And we always show our writers empathy.
And she's getting back out there. So, I mean, really what she could say if he brings this up is just like, I'm sorry, I got out of a really long-term relationship somewhat recently. And I'm still like working through learning how to be single.
Yeah. And I actually think she should get ahead of it. I think if you feel like if he's dropping hints and you're thinking he's going to ask you, like, you're not stupid, and don't play dumb. Because I think a lot of times, like, if you're going to be out there dating, you're going to feel like this probably from some guys at some point, the feeling of, he totally, like, he knew, he had to have known I liked him. Like, why didn't he say something? Why was it on me? He could clearly tell. You can tell, so it's on you to say something. And I think it would probably go along the lines of, saying, hey, I really enjoy hanging out with you as we have. I would love to keep doing this, but I want to give you a heads up. Like, I'm recently out of a relationship. I'm not ready to take any kind of next steps at this point. And I think if you're saying it like that, like, some people are going to say, saying words like, right now or later, it is wrong to do because it's probably a never thing. I do think if you genuinely believe it's something that could happen down the road, there's nothing wrong with saying it. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you do need to say something and get ahead of it.
Yeah. And like, I don't know, if you really like each other, but you want to play the field, like, play the field, and then you can always beg for forgiveness later if you want it.
Well, yeah, and if you want to come back, because what's probably going to happen? First, yeah, can you decline a label? I don't. And for all you know, maybe he wants the same thing you do. There are some guys who would jump for joy at the idea of getting to have girlfriend benefits without the responsibility.
Yeah, true. Would the question is, would you be okay with him hooking up with other people at this point? Like, do you like him enough that you don't want him hooking up with other people? I guess.
Yeah, and that you'd have to ask that, and that's a trade-off that's going to come with it. It's also like if someone is open to the idea of a more casual relationship versus seeing it as dating and moving towards something, how they treat you and how they go about courting you and interacting with you might change. They're the person that you want to be in a relationship with you treat a little bit differently than the person you call when you've got nothing else to do. Yeah. So that's something that you have to to take into account. Like, he might be interested, but how he communicates with you might change. But that's another one of those, you can't have your cake and eat it too. I also, and if he's not interested, I do think there's a lot of guys who would be interested in the type of scenario you're looking for, where it's keep doing things that feel like dates, that are fun, consistent, but aren't heading to a relationship or don't have that, hanging over your head. Yeah. I think another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say another thing I would say too is, and I would say I know we got a similar question like a few episodes back where it was a guy talking about women. It's a 37-year-old guy. I really do think there's something to be said for I don't want to stereotype based on age, but you do have to play.
He's 37.
Yeah.
How old is she?
28.
Okay.
Yeah. So I do think there's something to be said for playing the numbers game. A 37-year-old man, might be looking to settle down.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes when it comes down to, you're not ready for a relationship, choosing people that maybe are in the same place that you're in. I think what you're looking for is a way more ideal situation for the 27 to 30 crowd with guys than the 37-year-old crowd. Because I would say the same thing if a guy was saying, oh my gosh, like all these women want relationships. They're telling me their biological clock is ticking and they're 29. I would say stop talking to 29-year-olds. Go 23 to 25. You're not going to be the bad guy who wasted someone's time.
I also think that I understand too not wanting to let go of somebody that you are kind of casually seeing just to see it, like if you can play the field, because you're like, oh shit, then I'm gonna have no one. It's like the dog that looks into its reflection in the water holding the bone and then tries to get the bone from the reflection and then loses it.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I think, a very real thing.
Bird in the hand, two in the bush.
Yeah. But that won't happen pretty much. I think if you want to go out and explore, there's so much opportunity and so much so many fascinating different types of people out there who you will vibe with differently than this guy. And I wouldn't be don't not let him go because you're I don't know if I could find anything else.
Yeah.
There's so much out there. If I've learned anything.
Yeah. It's also, if you're such a catch, you'll have no problem with it.
Yeah.
Right. So I'd say that. What do you think too? And I put it also as something to go through. Do you think dating someone with no label for 5 or 6 months is unreasonable? An unreasonable way to get into a amount of time of dating before a relationship?
It's impossible that it won't come up between you guys. It's going to. What do you do if one party brings it up and is like, hey, so what do I tell people that we are and you're like, nope. We're not having this discussion for 5 months.
Yeah.
Sorry.
What about in general,
we can
though?
Discuss it later. You have to. I feel like you have to have something.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it just naturally, if you're seeing someone regularly, because I could see it being something more spread out. Because sometimes, start to finish of dating before a relationship maybe takes that long. You go on a date with someone and then things fall off the wagon, and then lo and behold, they walk back into your life 3 months later. And if you mapped it all out, it would be 5 months. But 5 months of just dating and then just not calling it anything, I think is weird.
Yes.
Yeah,
I think it is.
What do you think is the appropriate amount of time to be dating, not in a relationship yet, before you make it official?
Before you make it official. So I feel like you can, when you are in that interim period, it's also appropriate to say my man or my girl, because that's not as official as a boyfriend or girlfriend. So if I'm seeing somebody and it's gotten kind of serious and I'm talking to someone else and I'm like, oh yeah, blah, 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 that's my man or whatever.
Yeah.
That is almost a step before boyfriend. So.
I would totally agree on calling somebody that, but I do think also like, but just making it official in general, like, yeah, it comes with the titles, but then it's like, there's a little bit of more responsibility that comes with that. Like, what do you think is, how much time would you spend dating somebody before you make it?
Okay, I see.
What's too soon? What's too long?
I'm a freak. I'm down for like 2 weeks of dating. If I really like them, I'm like, yup, that's fine.
I move fast too.
Sounds good. Yeah, I move fast.
Which
Whatever.
is why these
it's romantic.
like extended things, like, and I don't know, like college, I feel like is different because it just forces you to be around people a bunch. So I think like a lot of people who are like, yeah, we just spent a year talking. They call it talking because they're fucking college. It's like it would be more normal, but as you're older, like you have to like choose to hang out with people.
Yeah. Is that a crazy bitch thing though, to be like, I move fast or whatever?
No, because I know guys say it too when they find the right person.
Oh,
I think
really?
in general people move fast when they find the right person.
You think so?
Which is why when
'Cause I
people
feel like
say I like to take it slow, I'm like, no, you don't. You're not ready for a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
You're just
Or
not.
you don't really like the person.
Yeah, I think take it slow is, and I think
Yeah.
people when they say it, they genuinely believe it. That's the other thing too, is like when people say these things, everyone's always like, they said this thing to hoodwink me and trick me. It's like, no, I think a lot more people genuinely believe what they're saying. They just don't, understand what's going on in front of them. They only have their point of view and they're thinking about themselves first.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to go into our next quick hit question. I think our quick hit is actually it was like a short question, so I need to read it.
Oh.
Yeah, quick hit. Can casual or friends with benefits ever become a relationship? I've 26 female, been in a casual / friends with benefits situation with a guy, 26 male, for the last 6 months. We didn't want it to be anything serious, but my feelings have grown. Our hangouts have also escalated and conversations have gotten deeper. Is this a sign it could be something? Do guys ever change their minds?
Yeah, God damn, that friends with benefits situation. We were talking about this yesterday, the other night, and like, how do you define friends with benefits? And actually, you had asked me like if I ever had a friends with benefits, and I was like, no, that's crazy. But now that I think about it, like, yeah, totally, I've been in this situation before, definitely, where you're like hanging out with somebody. But short answer, no, I really don't think that it can like graduate from there. I think it's, I don't know. I think when you're friends, people are always like, oh, the friends to relationship pipeline. But sometimes I'm like, if you're good friends and then you try to get into a relationship after that, like the rules just feel so different, you know?
It's also like if we were, I feel like it's, maybe it's like that the mermaid theory or the mermaid theory we talked about like a few weeks ago, where it's like you're lonely and you're just like, this person will this will do, like I feel safe, because I think there's something for women too where it's like you're afraid of getting murdered and you're like, this person, I know they're not going to murder me, I'm lonely. Dude, they are nice.
I heard about this a lot like at the start of COVID. Like I had friends who they met somebody on Hinge or Tinder or in their building or whatever during COVID, and then they ended up dating for like 2 years or whatever, kind of, and then it was just like they realized like, oh, I actually did not ever like this person that much. I just was a little bit stuck with them. Yeah,
I think that's kind of when it happens. I think the cases where friends with benefits can work, I think first it's the movies have skewed people's perception. I don't think it's like this success. I don't think it's the way to start things. I think when there's a friends to lovers situation, not a friends with benefits, I think where the friends to lovers works is when it's two people that know each other and are forced to interact with each other, that can't express their attraction, that have, because of their situation, they get to know somebody really well but can't act on it, and then when they finally do, it's because they can, and they have all this like history as far as getting to know each other, but they were always attracted. Like, I think,
see, I've been in that situation before, and it was catastrophic, kind of. It just
it can blow up in your face, though.
Because you have all this like tension building with this person, and then when the tension finally breaks and you're together, you're like, oh, it's not what I like fantasized about, really.
I feel like it could go either. I feel like it could go one way or the other. Like it could go really, really well in a sense where, like, because I think of the coworker example where it's if you have a coworker, you think your coworker's hot, no one's gonna run in and jump and just date a lot of people don't want to date their coworker. But then 2 years go by, you were desk partners. Hey, I'm leaving the company, and by the way, I always found you attractive. And then they go on the date, and it kind of like works in that sense. Or it's, they choose to get into a relationship because it's finally like, this is worth it. Whatever happens, happens. So they put a lot more thought into dating that person because of like the history or all the other factors involved, where it's like you go and ask out your best friend's younger sister or something like that. Like, that it's worth it. You know, like that there's stakes. But then it can also blow up in your face, because when it blows
Sure
up, it
can.
really blows up.
Yeah.
Like there's collateral damage in the form of losing friends. Like maybe someone has to leave the company of your coworkers. Like that kind
yeah,
of thing.
totally. Or yeah, you're like cheating on your wife for somebody else that is friends with your wife, and then you leave your wife, and then it's just like, oh, well, you can't be shocked and upset that your life fell to pieces
Exactly.
and nobody wants to talk to you anymore.
Exactly.
Was it worth it? Like that'll always cause like problems. Yeah.
Exactly. So people put extra thought into it. But I think that's different than like the friends with benefits idea. Because the friends with benefits, first off, I don't think you can go and find a friends with benefits off the street. That's a fuck buddy. You have to like be friends with the person. Like it's like there's a friendship, there's a platonic. It's platonic. Platonic.
Bitch, it is platonic.
Platonic.
I don't think there are dual
I'm
pronunciations
saying
for
it
that.
sounds exactly the same, but when I say it louder, it's the play is accentuated.
Because of Play-Doh.
Platonic, but it's like if I say platonic, that sounds normal. If I go platonic, it sounds louder. Oh, God,
Play-Doh.
I can't pronounce words. Well, yeah, Play-Doh. Well, so
Okay.
I can't pronounce words.
Sure.
Yeah, it's like someone that was platonic relationship, and then there's something going on simultaneously, like you're in the same friend group. That's a friends with benefits.
Yes.
A fuck buddy is like you go on a dating app, you're like, I'm looking for friends with benefits. No, you're not fucking friends. You're fuck buddies. That is a fuck
Yes.
buddy.
Okay.
But like I think like friends with benefits happens because like someone's making concessions. Like it's like you're already saying like I'm doing this until something better comes along. Like
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So you think in that situation it's because one party is like, I know that I can do better, but this is keeping me busy.
I think it's like I think it's safe. I don't think anyone consciously thinks that, because nobody thinks they're evil. Like no one is like, haha, like this person.
But at the
is
root
my...
of it, do you think that's what it is?
I think yeah, because if they didn't, they would just be in a relationship.
Bruh,
If
yeah.
you're doing all these things, having these deep talks, why aren't you in a relationship? I think if you want to try for it, here's what you do though. I think, is it unlikely? Yes. But the way you go down that road is first you gotta say something now that you know, because if you go about hanging out and continuing to do this friends with benefits thing, hoping to earn your way into a relationship, and one day they'll realize you're just gonna get pissed off and disappointed. You need to say something immediately, and you need to have like a contract renegotiation basically.
Yeah.
Hey, we have been doing this, whatever it is, for whatever amount of time. I've been having fun. I wasn't expecting this, but I'm starting to catch feelings. Feel like you're a really awesome person. I would actually like to try like giving this a shot. Can we try, if you haven't? And a lot of times friends with benefits is like in the house, like in your snuggies and blankets and eating cookies.
Sure.
Could we go out for a drink and do something like that's like a date in that sense, that feels like a first date? And I think first off, nobody intends to be close with anybody. Like that's not weird. You probably didn't intend to have feelings for this person.
Sure, yeah.
And now that you do, like that's normal. No one
true.
woke up and said, I'm gonna go find a best friend today. Like that's just not how it works.
Right.
And then what they're gonna probably do, and maybe you want to say that before you're on your way out the door, just because you don't know how they're gonna react. Maybe they'll say a response immediately. Maybe they'll say, I need to think about it, just because they might be caught off guard. They might also like nod along and agree to it and change their mind, or they might nod along to it enthusiastically. But you gotta have to plan ahead as far as like what would you do depending on what they say. Like if you're someone, I do think for the most part, if you know that you want something more out of a situation, sticking around as this, in this secondary type of relationship that you don't want, is not a good idea. Like for your own mental health. It's also like some people do that thinking they can like earn their way into what they do want, or they can change someone's mind. I don't know that you can. I think you have kind of one shot, and don't like put too much hype into this, because I think no matter how you say it, there's not a perfect way to tell this person or ask this person that is like the silver bullet to get what you want. I think just say the first thing that comes to mind, like, and just say, hey, like I've got feelings, and if they are not on the same page, I won't tell you what to do, but I think if it isn't helpful to you, and for the most part it isn't, it's not a good friends with benefits situation to continue.
Valid, yes.
Yeah. Would you add anything else?
No. I mean, I guess it's a tough situation to be into because you don't want to get your feelings hurt.
That's the hard thing too. But you have two options. You have
step up and say something.
You have
Continue
Option
down this
A
road.
is you continue and say nothing and get frustrated to protect your own feelings, and you pray and you just hope that, you know, be a bag in the wind and hope something happens. Or B, you hand them a dagger and say, stab me in the heart or love me forever.
Shakespearean, I love it.
I know, right?
That's what I
So
would do.
if you like having your time and, you know, moving on when something's not right for you, you do option B. If you're okay with floating and you just really don't want to hear anybody insulting you, I guess go with option A.
Yeah, that's tough because it's like you're not technically dating, you know, whatever, but it's not even like you can be playing the field outside of that if you really like this person.
I think by nature, when you really like someone, your heart's not in it when you're trying to pursue
you
other
can't.
people.
You can't. It's
Yeah.
so true. Oh, God, it's so true.
It's also, like being in a situation like that with someone who's not sharing feelings, it just prevents you from finding the right person. And there's more fish in the sea, as the other girl said. She's a catch. There's a million other people. Follow her lead. But you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Word.
Exactly. So I'm going to jump in and get to our next listener inbox. This is our last one. We've got, this will be a fun one and relatable, I think, to Austin, where we live.
Oh, boy.
We record in Austin, Texas, at the famous Pouch Six Studios. It is a great studio. So that's another fun thing about us. We are Austinites, but we are originally from Southern California. Yeah. Okay. Here's number 2. Can you ever change a Peter Pan? I'm a 27-year-old woman, a lot of 27-year-olds today, making good money, and I'm surrounded by successful men. Is that great, right? Nope. I've been living here for 5 years and been on more dates than I can count, and without fail, every single guy has a raging case of Peter Pan syndrome. It's been a cycle, if not a 1 to 2 date situation where the guy drops a not looking for anything serious, which I walk away from. It's a 2-month situationship where everything seems to be going great, just for them to drop a delayed not looking for anything serious or not looking for a relationship. And these guys are so fucking nonchalant about it. Like they assumed I would just be okay with it or down for a casual thing. It is so frustrating. What makes it even more frustrating, a lot of the advice I've been given is to look at guys' actions as an indicator for whether or not they want a relationship. As in, the guy who takes you out for dates over Netflix and chill. However, these guys are all more than willing to do nice dates. Spending this type of money on women is clearly a drop in the bucket in this tier of guys. So this isn't exactly a good litmus test. Also, our situation is never a secret. I've been invited as a date to parties or along to group gatherings. Also, I forgot to add, these aren't just the 27 to 28-year-old guys. I'd say more than half are over 30. The last guy who wasn't ready for a relationship was 33, yet on his dating app profile, he said he wanted children someday. When? So age isn't a good litmus test either. How can I better spot and avoid Peter Pans going forward? Can you ever change a Peter Pan?
Damn.
A lot of feels to this one.
That's crazy. That is so crazy. You said she's in Austin?
No, she's a major city.
Oh,
I said
major
we're
city.
in
Okay.
Austin.
Because I was going to say, God damn it, if I haven't experienced this exact same thing, like in rapid succession too. It feels like you get out of it and then you're like talking to somebody else and you're like, oh, this guy's really different than the last guy. Boom. Gets ya. Every time, dude.
That's the consequences of living in a big city. Like, there's more options for you and there's more options to everyone, for everybody. If you were in a small town, yeah, people might be more ready to settle down, but you'd have like 4 guys to choose from. Can't have your cake and eat it too. That's becoming a theme of this episode.
You really cannot have your cake and eat it.
And that's how the guys are going to be too. Like, I think the guys are going to be, like, why not too? Like, if this city's anything like Austin, like I think any major city, like a Denver is like Austin this way, like, or New York is even crazier. Yeah, like, you've got time to not settle down, so people aren't, especially dudes.
It feels,
That's how it goes.
people aren't, but I know that there are people that are.
That's true.
And it sucks when you're like going through this and it just feels like strike after strike, but then you see like your friends and people getting into long-term relationships where they're really happy with this person and they're staying together and it's successful and they get engaged and it's like, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck? And you're just wasting your time over and over and over again, and it's like, yeah, I don't know. And I think the worst part about it is how like blindsided you kind of feel by it.
Yeah.
Because it feels so like, because this guy's been really cool. Dude, I went through this like kind of recently. This dude, like, we were like sending each other poetry and like we're like reading books together and shit, and like, and then just all of a sudden it was like, yeah, not, whatever. And I was like, okay, so you just played the like romance novel character. Probably, I was probably self-fulfilling, honestly. He probably was like, dudes will do that. They want to believe themselves to be like romantic and stuff.
Yeah.
But then he really wasn't looking for anything. And it's just like, am I stupid? Was I deceived? Was I just not?
I think guys get ahead of themselves, but I think, like I said, like how a lot of people, I think there's not a lot of people wandering through life being like, I'm going to go play some tricks on people. I think a lot of people genuinely believe what they're saying when they say it and believe it to be true, and they just don't think that far ahead, or they don't think of the consequences. Like, it's kind of like if you bump into somebody from high school that you didn't hate, you liked them just fine at the supermarket, and you say to them like, hey, what's up? And then maybe you say to them, we should totally grab a drink sometime. And maybe you don't think in the back of your mind like, I don't really mean this. Like, you think it's probably sounds like a nice thing to say, and maybe you kind of believe it. But if they hit you up 2 days later and said, that drink you said, like, let's totally get a drink, you're kind of like, oh, they thought I meant it. Like, they're taking it seriously. I think, like, guys don't necessarily think about, like, women think so hard on our words, and we think that there's so much to read into with guy words. They're talking out their butt. But, like, I think that's a part of it. I would definitely say, and I think people like don't really think about what's next until they like have like they sleep on it, or they're like, oh shit, like there's a lot of weight to my words that I just said. I think that's something you'll run into. I also think, as far as things go with you feeling like you're bumping into this type of guy all the time, I think this type of guy has a way of being more visible and being more outgoing and more out there, and having a dating profile that maybe is just more, I guess, that stands out a little bit more. Like, because I don't want to even say like more attractive. I want to say more just like better pictures, or like pictures doing more stuff, like
more money too, like just more.
But I do think there's people. I don't think money go.
She said that it was these men were like,
well, I think something
well-to-do or something, right?
Yeah. So. I do think like that's not I don't think it's like all wealthy guys are going to act like that.
Okay.
But I do think they're going to be showing off their money in a way that, the guy who bought the house and saves his money in the bank for a rainy day and is doing home projects, bought their house, they spend their Saturday building a fire pit, and that's how they spend their money, is different than the guy who says, I'm going to go live at the Sky House or something, some skyscraper, pay $4,000 a month in rent, and then show it off and have all the nice clothes.
Yeah.
I think that one of them feels richer than the other, even though one's probably doing better and probably a bit smarter with their money. Yeah. And I think that guy's going to be more visible and have the better dating app profile pictures, whereas the other one's going to be, picture with a dog while hiking or in front of a campfire. So I think it's... Because sometimes people like, I'm going to post these clips on TikTok. People are going to say like, well, the hot guys have their options. You got to go for the. I don't think it's a looks thing as much as it is a type and a personality. But yeah, like, and that's another can't have a cake and eat it too. If you like party guy who buys bottle service and goes traveling a lot and all of that, like the caveat to that is they might not be looking for a relationship the way the guy that's living a little bit further from the city center is. So I think it's kind of going for a certain type of guy, and also being ready for that type of guy. Like, if you're attracted to the fun party city guy, there might be a reason for that. Like, are you ready for a relationship yourself? Like, if the person that's a little more mellowed out is kind of sounds boring to you, like maybe you're not. Like,
yeah.
So you kind of have to have some trade-offs. And of course, like, I think I ran into the issue sometimes too before I got in a relationship of feeling like every guy was either they were so fun, so party, and not looking for a relationship, almost too much party, or they didn't want to do anything and they were judgy about it. And it's like, I still like to go to music festivals. I still like to go to concerts. I like to, have a fun night. And it felt like I just couldn't find that somewhere in the middle. It's out there. I think you kind of have to.
Yeah. When you can't find that. So yeah, I think I was going through that too, where I was like, oh my God. Just like dating for the last like 6 months or whatever, because it's just so fucking like awful trying to find somebody that you're compatible with, and like every time you're kind of like, well, there's these hang-ups, but like I don't know, I could see it working out, but like really, if you are having to like alter your personality or change yourself in some way to like kind of fit this situationship, dude, like there is a a way better match out there.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is you have to keep looking, and you're not looking for a needle in the haystack. But if you think who you are is kind of rare, like, you know, you're this fun person, and, you know, it might take a little bit more to find that. But I think you continue to find that by being yourself and kind of going into those like groups, hangs, or activities that maybe are outside of just like out and parties. Like great places for that is, you know, when people have barbecues, pre-games, like groups of friends, like that means a lot. Like I feel like people don't want to fuck over people they met through friends. Like if you meet somebody and you're introduced by a friend, by default, you're probably, you know, there's more stakes involved if you're an asshole to that person versus a dating app match where if you're a dick to them and ghost them, you know, who's going to come after you? No one's going to be like, what the fuck did you do to so-and-so? So I think going and hanging out with friends, like joining groups and interacting with people there that aren't necessarily drinking centric, but are still fun.
Yes.
And finding people there versus trying to like go to the clubby fun places and turning those people around.
Right. Yeah, like, yeah, definitely. More comfortable spaces.
Yeah. And I think the way you sell yourself too, like some people say, well, you should be yourself on a dating app. But I do think choosing certain pictures like can convey that, like hobbies and interests. And then I think if you have interests, because sometimes, you know, if you're interested, I think a big one is like if you're interested in EDM, some people correlate that with like parties and out and clubs and stuff. Like if you're someone who likes the music, like talk about the artist or something like that. I'm totally making assumptions about this woman's life, but
question just came up for me. On your dating apps when you had them, did you have any pictures of you in a bikini?
No,
you did not.
No, it was like blood in the water kind of thing. Like I didn't want to.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I think I have like 3 and I like always did that. I don't know. I was just like, I need to look as hot as possible on this thing. I don't know, but
I just think like I
had no interest. It was all just like bikini pictures.
Yeah, no, I never did. So I do think though, like, yeah, if you're putting bikini pictures, it's blood in the water. I think there's cute and tasteful. Like I think there's versions of bikini pictures because when people sometimes say bikini pictures, they think like thought bikini. There's just 2 versions of bikini pictures in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, definitely there are.
Yeah, I think, but pictures that show your personality and like more like niche interests, I think are cool. And then, yeah, I don't think you can change a Peter Pan. I think Peter Pans change on their own when they meet the right person. Maybe you will come across someone who's somebody else's Peter Pan. And then you're just like, he was just a great person the whole time. Like everyone's dad was a fuckboy to somebody. Damn. But he's your dad now. And
he's your dad now.
Yeah, so
still
you might
be, but
yeah, you might
hopefully not.
you might find somebody else's fuckboy and you may never know about it. So I think you can't change if you already have decided they're if you've already decided they're a Peter Pan, no, you can't change them.
Yes. Yeah, damn. That is true. I think, yeah, for sure. Like your match like has been a Peter Pan to other people. I think also a lot of that is just like experience in dating. Like every time you date somebody new, you're kind of like leveling up and moving more towards like what you want. And I don't know, you kind of like start to weed things out and get closer and closer to it. And so like if he has been a Peter Pan in the past, like to other people, it was basically because he was like learning how to date before.
Exactly. The other thing too is like, yeah, being a better buyer and communicating what you want. Like, yes, that means you have to be more direct about wanting a relationship. Some people think that makes you sound clingy and weird. No, there's ways you can convey that without sounding clingy and weird. Yeah, but some people of course say like, well, then I'm going to lose him. You want to. If he's a Peter Pan and you want to lose him.
Don't try to hold on to him. So if he wants to go, let him go.
I also think with the Peter Pans too, the good thing about Peter Pans is they do not want to be evil and they do not think they are evil. And so the second there is a consequence that is introduced, they will think about it. So if you say something like, before you have sex, for example, hey, sex is a big deal to me. And, after I have sex with someone, I get more attached and, I look to take things to the next level. They're going to chew on that and they're probably not going to go forward with that sex. But you got to say it. You can't float through it and just think like, if I'm good enough, they'll want me. Or the assumption now is they're evil if, I didn't say this beforehand. Because if you just go along with things, people tend to, and you don't say anything, you seem like you're having fun. Right. People are going to assume that you are having fun and you're okay with it.
Yeah. Weed them out in the beginning. That is a good idea.
And it feels less personal when you do that.
Yeah, I guess it's probably hard for her if she's just kind of like going on dates. I think like kind of when it comes down to like yeah, when you hook up with somebody, setting boundaries that's like a very natural thing to do. But like if you're getting invited on a date, it's hard to be like, hey, listen, I would love to go on this date with you, but like,
You don't
if
say it
things
before.
go well, like,
I do think you don't.
I do want a relationship.
I don't think you say it before the date altogether. When people
Okay.
say, "What are you looking for?" I think that's weird. I think first date you don't necessarily say it, but you show not tell. I think great questions. Some people think that asking about past relationships on a first date is a no-no or talking about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with saying when was your last relationship. I think it shows relationships are on your mind, and it shows how they talk about their exes. And usually that doesn't force people to use names or force them to, give too much information out. Just, when was it? And, oh, okay, cool. And then I've found things too, like, I think I had different reactions, like, as I got older, talking about things like, oh, family. And then sometimes it wouldn't be like shoehorned in, but it would be like, oh yeah, like, when I have kids someday, I'd love to take them to this vacation spot. Like, saying things like that, someone that's like so terrified of that or doesn't see that in the future for them, it's not in the line of sight, they might be like, so.
They're like, whoa. Hold on. Yeah. No,
Exactly.
I think, you do need somebody that like aligns with you.
Yeah. And
From
being
the
open.
jump. Yeah. I think that is definitely like if I'm gonna start dating somebody theoretically right now, and like I ostensibly want a family someday, and they are like totally shut down on it, I'm not going any further.
Yeah.
I'm not like what I'm sorry. Like I know that that's like something that I want, and I don't really want to like spend a few years either trying to convince somebody to do that or being convinced not to.
Yeah. No, I'm on the same boat.
Yeah.
Yeah. What time are we at? I think we're coming up on time. Oh, wow. We're on time.
Dang, are we really?
Yeah, we are. That was a good one. We're actually recording another episode shortly after this.
Ooh,
So we're having a
yeah.
back-to-back on the recording side, but this will be out pretty quickly. I want to thank you guys for coming in, and we'll catch you next time. I'm Charlotte Warren. This is the Peasant Party Podcast.
I'm Annabelle, and I am also here.
Annabelle's going to be on here a lot.
Yes, I am.
Yeah. Annabelle is my younger sister, and she's 10 times cooler than me. Yes. So thanks, guys, for joining in. We'll catch you next time.
Ciao.
Ciao.